In this Korean drama, a transfer student named Eun-sung becomes the target of some ruthless students. The new student accidentally bumps into a transfer student's Walkman, which is a gift from his deceased brother. This leads to an altercation with a student with yellow hair who is enraged by the challenge to his authority. After a brief chase, yellow hair backs Eun-sung into a corner, demanding an apology and money for the broken Walkman. Eun-sung silently complies, but the bullying doesn't end there. Yellow hair takes Eun-sung's phone and enters his number, establishing a rule that Eun-sung must reply to his messages within 10 seconds or get slapped. At home, Eun-sung is accustomed to his strict father, who checks his homework and insists there is no room for distraction. His father makes him repeat his work over and over if he makes a mistake. At school the next day, yellow hair serves Eun-sung breakfast and slaps him when he doesn't comply with an order. When yellow hair notices Eun-sung wearing headphones, he takes the Walkman. Eun-sung pleads with him to return it, explaining that it belonged to his deceased brother, but yellow hair refuses and says it's his now. The other students are shocked when Eun-sung, who is usually a meek and quiet student, transforms into a powerful fighter, taking on yellow hair. The students are stunned by his fighting ability, which is not what they would expect from a bookish student. Eun-sung's intense stare and savage aggression terrify everyone who witnesses the fight. After school, a classmate named Yongchi approaches Eun-sung. He praises Eun-sung's fighting skills and asks if he's had any training, which Eun-sung denies. Yongchi, a member of Yellow Hair's gang, tells him that their fight has just begun. Later that night, Eun-sung returns home, late from cram school. His father reminds him that if he doesn't do well on his exams, he will be moved to a lower-level class. Eun-sung later listens to a recording on his Walkman, which contains a message from his brother telling him to not just listen with his ears, but with his heart. His father, seeing him with the Walkman, urges him back to his desk. The news of the fight reaches the first-year boss, Jincheng County. He confronts Eun-sung in the bathroom and demands that he kneel. When Eun-sung refuses, Jincheng County becomes more aggressive, but a teacher intervenes. The teacher accuses Jincheng County of bullying a student who is focused on his studies. Although the teacher stops the conflict, it's clear the feud is far from over. Later, Jincheng County and his gang ambush and attack Eun-sung. They steal his Walkman, and a full-on fight ensues. Eun-sung is knocked down repeatedly but gets back up each time, studying his opponent's moves and finding a rhythm. He eventually finds an opportunity to fight back, punching Jincheng County in the face and shocking him. Jincheng County then gets serious, unleashing a series of punches that leave Eun-sung bloody and nearly defeated. Just as Eun-sung is about to fall, he remembers Yongchi's words. To win, he has to get close and roll over with his opponent. He grabs Jincheng County and rolls down the stairs with him, then gets up and delivers a final kick that completely incapacitates Jincheng County. Yongchi declares Eun-sung the winner, and Yellow Hair watches helplessly as his boss is defeated. Yongchi approaches Eun-sung and expresses his admiration. He says he's a real fighter who fights with his aura, not his fists. He admits he hates bullies who pick on the weak. Just then, Eun-sung's phone lights up with a message from his father, asking why he's not at cram school yet and hasn't answered the phone. Eun-sung, covered in blood, asks Yongchi to help him get a change of clothes so his parents don't see his injuries. Yongchi agrees and even gives him some BB cream to cover his bruises. Meanwhile, Yellow Hair and his gang worry about the consequences of Jincheng County's defeat, fearing they will be mentored by the second-year boss. The next day, Eun-sung's father notices the bruise on his face, but Eun-sung lies and says he was hit by a basketball. At the same time, Jincheng County is publicly humiliated by his second-year boss for losing the fight. The boss tells him that fighting isn't a test or about points. It's about who can land the final blow. He orders Jincheng County to stand up. That night, Jincheng County's gang ambushes Eun-sung and Yongchi. Eun-sung gets hit with a brick and falls to the ground. Before losing consciousness, he tells Yongchi not to call the police. Eun-sung wakes up in the hospital, and his first instinct is to leave for cram school, but his parents arrive. His mother checks on him anxiously, while his father asks what happened. Eun-sung lies, saying he slipped on the steps leading to the bus station. His father then asks Yongchi about his grades, and he awkwardly leaves. Eun-sung apologizes to his father, knowing he's worried everyone. The boss asks Eun-sung if he saved Kim without saying a word. Eun-sung's eyes are calm and empty. Seeing his silent attitude, the boss gets angry and demands to know why he won't answer. The anger becomes tense. If the fight continues, the head teacher will have to deal with it. However, the other party is rather aggressive, asking, is he the speaker for Eun-sung? The boss demands that Lien must go to the rooftop for a meeting after school at noon. If she's not there on time, a more cruel revenge awaits. She is to be on time for the appointment after school. Eun-sung apologizes to the other party and asks for luck. These unexpected words make the other party laugh. He says Eun-sung used to be very loyal, but that doesn't mean the past can be turned over. The boss shrinks from Chung-jun and demands that Eun-sung be given lessons with a fist. Eun-sung must be beaten until he hears his name and is scared to pee. Chung-jun doesn't do it for a long time, and the boss, unable to contain his anger, beats Chung-jun fiercely. A witness to this stops the boss's attack. "You're Kangukya, a.s." A voice says, "Can you eat? My brother, you are KFN's DF. Do you have so many shares? How did it go? You know what the popular message is. You are." Just when it seemed like all was lost, Chung-jun kicks the boss over. The younger boys immediately rush forward to fight. The boss, enraged, beats Eun-sung. Facing a gradual advantage, Eun-sung simply cannot get a hit in. But in a numb daze, he precisely grasps the gradual gap and punches into the past. The younger boys want to go help, but Eun-sung stands up and stops them. He states that it was clearly an above-board one-on-one fight. If they plan to gang up on him now, he will never stand by idly. His words anger several seniors. Just as the atmosphere gets tense, the teenager calms down. He says he'll either tell the teacher or call the police. These words make several high-ranking people stand down, and the fight ends with Swoba Chow Chow. The opponent limps off the roof. Eun-sung asks for the names of the remaining opponents, and learns there are 2 third-year seniors. He looks at the time, sees it's lunchtime, and doesn't hesitate to face them at once. "Hello, kiss me," he says. This is caused by so many others. On the other side, Chung Junshur suddenly announces his withdrawal. He's tired of this boring, low-level power play and feels there's no point in hanging out with this so-called senior. He doesn't want to continue to be a thug or a spectator. Meanwhile, the boss finds the male priesthood and Sue program of the training machine. The male priesthood holds a limping Eun-sung in the hallway and drops him off at the gate. After Eun-sung steals a look back, he is ready to return to his flight. The male priesthood suddenly reaches out and asks for money for a drink, saying he's too thirsty from doing good deeds. This half-hearted ghost temptation is rejected by Eun-sung. He silently steps out of the former emperor's past, and Shang Jiqing leaves with a smile. In the evening cram school, the teacher reveals Yin-sung's exam score is 94. It's not bad, but he didn't come first, which leads to ruthless criticism. The teacher thinks that as a transfer from the advanced class, Eun-sung should have performed better. After cram school, the boss with the boy and Su Chung blocks Eun-sung at the entrance. The boy takes the initiative to say hello. "I used to keep making money," he says. While staring at the boy, Eun-sung asks, "Do you think it's one of those two?" The other party doesn't understand for a while and asks what this kid is talking about. The male saint only hears that Eun-sung took care of them one by one. He wants to know why Eun-sung did it. Eun-sung doesn't respond directly, but points to a rhetorical question and says, "Here." The reaction stuns the other party. He realizes Yin-sung's age-old provocations and can't help but curse him as a lunatic. He looks gloomy and angry, threatening that if Eun-sung is really going to fight him, he'll have to crawl home today. Taking advantage of the standoff, a car slowly pulls up to the side of the road. Yin-sung's father leans out and tells him to get in the car. In the car, the father asks if the people just now were friends. Eun-sung shakes his head and says no, but they wear the same school uniform. His father disapproves, saying those people don't look serious. He earnestly tells his son that there are 2 kinds of power, one that is ephemeral and accessible, and another that is permanent. He wants Eun-sung to pursue the latter rather than being tempted by the surface power. Eun-sung nods seriously. The father tells him they are going to get a suit for him because it's his grandpa's birthday this week. The next day, the boys block Eun-sung at the door with Su Jingshu. Su Jingshu picks up his dedicated Walkman, and Eason stands up again, but is pressed down by male Xingji. He smiles and says he likes Eun-sung and wants to play with him, using the word to package his desire for control. He says there's no fight or resistance needed. As long as Eun-sung joins them, he'll have the power to control water efficiency, and everyone will obey him. This temptation, a mixture of violence and dominance, is like the devil's hell. The other party says, killing your G, engage in Chinese New Year, because there is still that kind of fruit on the market. The West is still full of water. Work harder at mahjong. Prefer the nightly counterattack, but hit the nail on the head. Eun-sung says these seem like great ideas, but the essence is lost to hooliganism. This stings the other party's self-esteem. The other party's forced calm praises Eun-sung for being smart and having a good mind. A can of a drink is thrown at Yin-sung's head, and the other party says he bought it with Yin-sung's money. As the school bell rings, the suffocating standoff hits the pause button. At his grandpa's birthday party, Eun-sung offers blessings to the elders. The whole family gets together, and the atmosphere seems to be hot with crosscurrents surging. His grandpa asks why Eun-sung went to the infamous St. Peak High School instead of the West Gate, even suggesting that this choice was to avoid competition. Faced with the question, Eun-sung calmly speaks his mind, saying he likes his current school. His mother then defuses the situation, saying the new environment is more conducive to children. His grandfather tells Eun-sung that all it takes is a phone call to block all the supply channels of his father's company. Captain Captivia, his grandfather says. Okay, keep it up. Check out the crime of being charitable. My poor man's horse is that one, his grandfather says. I was forced to drink it all before, and Grandpa Zhou changed his style. Give yourself status. His client is the whole family, the control axis at the top of the interest chain. He says it's only because Eun-sung's father failed to recognize reality and naively wanted to go his own way. Now, he still returned to the family system. All of his broader development space is gone because of the protection of family power. Now, without his grandpa's support, there's nothing he can do. He emphasizes that the moment everyone wants to escape, they really need to grit their teeth and persevere. He believes that a political decision can be a watershed for Party A, and Eun-sung's father and brothers didn't make it through that moment. And now he's down to Eun-sung, hoping Eun-sung will go back to the West Gate. Just allow me to make a phone call, he says, once again, showing the dominance of the strong in his educational resource system. Eun-sung finally speaks, saying he would die if he returned to the West Gate. A day later, Eun-sung is busy and goes out the door. He sees the figure of his dead brother. His godmother steps forward and falls into the pool. Fortunately, his father jumps out of the water and fishes him out. The mother complains about why Grandpa was so forced to pay Eun-sung. His grandpa believes that children need a tough education and should be under pressure. He points out that it was really the weakness of the parents that made the children so vulnerable and struggling. He says in a covert manner that this family logic ruins everything. Ignoring Jeong Yeongji's persuasion before school the next day, Eun-sung insists on looking for a male saint and fighting to the death with Su Jingshu. Yeongji advises him to stand still and not be impulsive, and to talk to the head teacher first. However, Eun-sung's attitude is unusually firm. He takes the initiative to ask Nai Zhengshi which class he is in. He turns around and leaves without hesitation after being told it's the 5th shift. In a hurry, Yeongji catches up and stops him, saying he can't go to those games because it's really going to kill him. He asks Eun-sung why he has to do this. Eun-sung responds softly, because of shame. I'm not standing up for anyone, and I'm not being a hero. It's because I was too cowardly that day. I didn't dare to look up. I didn't dare to respond. I don't even dare to look at people. He hates that feeling, a kind of shame and hating himself for choosing to escape. He walks into the classroom wholeheartedly and invites all the students to face the odds. He relies on uttering that memory. I should have had Coke, he says, almost self-deprecatingly. This means he's ready to stop avoiding the boys. The boy hands him a bottle of Coke with a smile, saying it had to be bought before. Eun-sung seriously thanks him and then pours the Coke all over the boy's head. There is a handsome guy, someone says. Happy birthday. Longevity is imminent. At this time, the head teacher comes and sees the classroom in a mess, burning with anger. The boy insists on causing trouble again and even questions the teacher, asking, "Do you think of yourself as a gang boss?" The boy is as naughty as ever, apologizing but trying to lighten the mood, even volunteering to massage the teacher. The teacher sighs, leaving a warning that this is the last time. He blames the boy but lets them all go. Male Jingji tells Eun-sung that if he doesn't come to the band at noon, he shouldn't blame him for being rude. This threat completely uncovers the upcoming head-to-head confrontation. Eun-sung shows up as scheduled at noon. Male Saint is the Rubik's Cube. He comes up with a multiple-choice question to mix together. Gotta do one more, he says. Eun-sung answers without hesitation. Let's fight quickly, I've got work to do. He gives the salt to people immediately, and fist and foot are added without reservation. This battle is far more dangerous than ever. Male Xingji's attack is clean and without sloppiness. Eun-sung is hit by a soul before and falls to the ground. He barely gets up, but his back is locked by the male sage, and with bare feet behind his back, he has no room to fight back. He gradually loses consciousness until he falls to the floor in a complete coma, not moving at all. Loon and Xingji turns his attention to his next target, burying excitement and aggression in the eyes of luck. He provokes, saying that with such a timid and cowardly student, they often conceal greater potential. To begin, the male saint tried to persuade the other party to betray everything and join him. Although Jiang Yuqi admitted to being timid, he was willing to fight. He said the most annoying thing was to lose face. After confessing again and again, he woke up with a shot from the fighting position. He struggled to get up, his eyes firm, ready to take on the male saint again. This time, the ground trembled as the male integrity revealed his skills. The man tried to drag him to the ground several times, but everything was resolved one by one. The male did not let go. He suddenly changed his stance and used a swift cross to lock the neck of the epidemic, crushing him to the ground. In the face of this kind of first aid pressure, the male saint was aggressive, and you could only admit defeat by clapping before he would stop. The other person grit his teeth on the brink of suffocation and did his best to break free. He turned over the boy's suppression and gained control. He then threw a flurry of punches down like raindrops, and the boy was beaten bloody in an instant, powerless to fight back. Seeing the situation go out of control, Xue Jingxiu attempted to intervene, but was kicked out by Jiang Yunjia, who yelled, "Don't die." The boy took advantage of the chaos and got up, panting heavily. He dropped a sentence, saying he would wait for them to win and lose before continuing. He did not expect Jiang Yanqin to be a hidden master. His skills and powers responded quickly. The water lamp couldn't get in at all. When the combination fist came down, the water lamp fell to the ground, and the battle was solved instantly. Jiang Yongqi turned around, and the nosebleed came out, and he admitted defeat. However, the male saint had no intention of quitting. Moments later, he struck again. Recording it all was Un Sung, who at this time pointed to the end. He warned that if the elbow was really broken, it might be difficult to repair by then. The atmosphere was extremely tense. In the midst of his chaos, he turned the tables on him and used a surprising technique to subdue his opponent. After the dust settled, the male saint warned everyone to stop bullying others from now on. The high school future first served order issuer was caught, and the central social movement finally returned to calm. Jiang Yongqi said to Un Sung that now everything was as he wished, and he could finally study with peace of mind. Yun Sung's previous expression was surprisingly empty, and he didn't respond like he was a soul still immersed in that long-running war. Even in cram school, Un Sung used to relive that battle. A teacher noticed he was distracted and poked his head with a finger, reminding him to focus. This epidemic was no longer tolerated, and he grabbed the teacher's wrist, which attracted quite a stir. Although he quickly apologized, he still attracted a reprimand from the teacher. He was unwilling to make progress, but remembering his father's expectations, he simply picked up his school bag and left the cram school. The next day, Father Un Sung asked why his son had left on the way to class. Un Sung explained where the teacher went. Facing his father's blame, he tried to hold his own, talking about active learning. He did not want to be forced to leave anymore, and mentioned that his grades had improved slightly recently. His explanation did not lead to understanding, and instead angered his father, who asked if he always just wanted to run away. Un Sung bowed his head and admitted his mistake, but could not get rid of the reprimand. His father decided to go to the cram school to apologize in person, and ensured it would not happen again. Un Sung could only respond in a low voice and try to adjust his emotions, go back to his seat, and continue learning. This day, the pregnancy epidemic was called out, and he felt like it was not over yet and was just getting started. Their enemy was not only these few people in front of them, bad guys were everywhere. Jiang Yongqi mentioned Yun Sung's story about Ximen High School and pointed out a high school sophomore there, Ji Nanyi. In a video, Kim Nami was seen bullying others in the classroom. Jiang Yongqi immediately described Ji Nanyi as a sadist in mink skin who tortured others to release his blood pressure. His father was a professor at a medical university, making it easy to cover up the truth every time. No one could cure him. Un Sung asked Jiang Yinqing what her plans were. Jiang Yongqi answered without hesitation, "Let's go catch him." Just then, the phone rang, and Un Sung answered his father's call. Jiang Yongqi snatched the phone, persuading him to stop blindly following his parents' arrangements and to follow his own will. Just when Un Sung turned to leave, a classmate stopped him and said thank you. It turned out that Un Sung had taught the bully a lesson before, and the classmate had not been bullied since. But he kept thanking Un Sung but never had a chance. Tian Yongqi turned to his classmates and said that he was not a person who thought of others before and got the shot just to vent his anger at his father because he did not dare to fight with him. His father took the epidemic to a high-end party where Grandpa won for him the opportunity to meet with a professor from the university. They talked about good resources for further studies in the future, introduced all kinds of contacts, and exchanged pleasantries one by one. Un Sung responded with a smirk and hypocrisy. What he did not think of before was that here he met a high school sophomore named Sui Nenyi, the son of a medical university professor. Un Sung knew that beneath his shiny appearance, he was actually a beast in human skin. This person was much brighter than a boy, the villain in the face was even scarier because his evil had the power to cover him up. Adults even backed him as the hope for the future. Jin-nae took the initiative to say hello to Eun-sung and mentioned Wu Qingfan before. He talked about carbohydrate medicine around, and that it was useless with this pit. Then he asked if it was his sister's turn. The wind saw this and quickly pulled Eun-sung away, asking, "Is he crazy?" He talked about school violence on such an important occasion. Eun-sung first berated the so-called excellent senior. He thought the student was a bastard who coerced a classmate with violence and stole money. His accusations were not groundless and were what he saw with his own eyes when his father hit him. He tried to use such words to anger the son of Tang Monk, but Eun-sung firmly responded that it was not Lu Yin and that the truth was what he saw with his own eyes. His father was not moved and asked his son if there were only two kinds of people who steal money and are robbed of money. In his eyes, the world was cold and complex. He told him to learn to be silent, to tolerate and master moderation, and that his downfall was a shortcut to success. He said that being calm in the face of rumors was true cultivation. But his son just wanted him to learn how to face it calmly. His father gave the final order: apologize tonight and say that being in the right place is to keep silent. Eun-sung's eyes were no longer confused. He pressed his father, asking why he was doing this and that he did not want to be that bad guy. He also asked if he wanted him to become like his brother. A word like a knife cut through the years between father and son. Suppressing his anger, his father gave Eun-sung a slap. It was revealed that Eun-sung's brother had ended his life in his room 1 month after entering medical college. That month, he got up and tried many times to ask his parents for help, but his father never noticed, focusing solely on the child's achievements. After experiencing an emotional breakdown, Eun-sung was confirmed. He made up his mind to find Yoon-chi and say, "Let's go." His voice was calm but powerful. The next second, he highlighted the name Jin-nae with anger and conviction. He decided to go and punish himself, the abuser in the honor suit. The next day, Jung Yun of Shiman High School was bullied. He cowered in the toilet, trying to avoid it, but was led by Nani to come to the door, where there was a loud knock. Jung Yuan said nothing, holding his breath nervously. The door was finally kicked open, and malice flooded in. Nani dragged him out of the pavilion with one punch after another, forcing him to stand there and be publicly humiliated. Eun-sung and Kang Yun-chi came to Jin-nae's stronghold, wearing masks. Their arrival was the beginning of a real counterattack for the school atrocity that should have ended long ago. They called themselves high school superheroes in a joking but determined tone, announcing the official start of the counterattack. A fierce hand-to-hand battle ensued. Eun-sung used a clean sword to subdue his opponent, while Kang Yun-chi used his nimble movements to respond easily, proving with strength who the real strong one was. After the victory, they filmed the whole process, forcing the abuser to apologize sincerely in front of the camera. The other party was forced to bow, saying sorry and begging for forgiveness while suffering. Upon getting up, Jang Yun-chi made a profound statement. The moon is not a duty but a right. No one can force a victim to forgive. The so-called forgiveness will heal is just a lie made up by the abuser. The true cure is to make the victim understand that you have the ability to resist, and you deserve respect. He used this encouragement to inspire students who had been beaten to stand up and fight back, telling them to trust in their support and stop being afraid of their abusers. With this encouragement, the students found the courage to resist for the first time. This act of defiance was an awakening of dignity and courage. Later, they celebrated their successful debut by drinking beer. In the evening, Jang Yong-chi visited a hospital where he had been for a long time. He mentioned that Jin-nae had already been brought to his knees, and that the other perpetrators would also be held accountable. Hwang Mao sought out Chung Jun, who was at People's University, but Chung Jun had since quit. Chung Jun had returned to boxing gym training and advised Hwang Mao not to do those childish things again. A conversation with Sunny's husband revealed a deeper fear. He wanted to remind Eun-sung of some heartfelt words. In the past, boys only waited for people. It's not a bad person who left. He had discovered the power of his fists and became childish, and he was afraid that Eun-sung would become like that too. At the same time, Lee Jie-zai's reputation preceded him at the senior year registration. As soon as he entered school, he was in full swing, and everyone was talking about his position among the boys. The male saint, who drove a sacred car, offered Lee Jie-zai a job for 100,000 won a week. He warned that if he didn't have money, he would have to use his body to hold the corpse. Lee Jie-zai refused, and his face changed in an instant. The other students, upon seeing the confrontation, all greeted Lee Jie-zai lazily and paid close attention, knowing that the slightest shot would knock him down. The conflict soon alerted the dean, who took both parties away for processing. The leaders of each grade gathered, and the male saint used underhanded tricks, spreading rumors that Lee Jiezai was trying to control the school and that his next target was Eun-sung. Eun-sung, hearing about this new power, was quickly drawn to him. He took the initiative to find Lee Jiezai and wanted to test his strength. Lee Jiezai, formerly an anonymous high school student, was now a prominent figure. When Eun-sung questioned him, Lee Jiezai made it clear that he did not want to fight. He believed in self-defense counterattacks, but Eun-sung, not believing in evil, provoked him, telling him to try and block his attacks. Eun-sung hit him, but Lee Jiezai blocked it through his chest. In the car, Lee Jiezai threw a very reflective question to the others, asking them what difference they had from gangsters, as they were also resorting to violence. He asked them who sets the standard for bad guys, a question that left them speechless. They believed they were doing good, but to outsiders, it was just violence against violence. Lee Jiezai went a step further, pointing out that those who commit these acts won't end well, a warning based on his own experience. He then revealed the truth about Nameless High School to Eun-sung. It wasn't a school at all, but an experimental reform school for troubled teenagers. It was a violent screening process, where students were ranked by the number of fights they won. The only rule of survival was to win and be treated like a human. If you lost, you were considered waste. Lee Jiezai, the strongest person to stand out from that hell, was able to transfer to a regular high school. This meant he was king in that world. That's why so many people were fighting desperately to transfer schools. Eun-sung and his gang were following Lee Jiezai, who sensed their presence and ran away. He led them to an alley where the male saint rushed up to him. But in less than 2 weeks, Lee Jiezai kicked him, and he squatted on the ground in pain. Sirakusan Asahi rushed up, but he was also easily defeated. The boy gritted his teeth and climbed up again, but a heavy punch sent him back to the ground. Lee Jiezai calmly picked up his school bag and left. The shocked people around him dispersed, but then he was stopped by a student during pregnancy who was a little calmer. He excitedly expressed that Lee Jiezai was a legendary existence and apologized for the previous misunderstanding. He then revealed that he had filmed the whole thing and tentatively offered to keep it a secret if Lee Jiezai would help him with something. Lee Jiezai questioned if this was a threat, but Shui Yongqi smiled and said it was a negotiation. Underscore 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 underscore. Back at the cram school, Eun-sung had been thinking about Lee Jiezai's question. Who decides the definition of a bad person? He kept asking himself if he was good or bad. This internal struggle was amplified by the cruelty of reality at home. Eun-sung's father slapped him in the face, berating him for being late and skipping class. His mother yelled at his father to stop, believing his pressured parenting was making the child more rebellious. The father lost control in anger. Later, Eun-sung's father again hit him and berated him. His father again lost control. The phone rang, interrupting the argument. Eun-sung's family rushed to the hospital to visit their long-sleeping friend, Ji-ching. Miraculously, Ji-ching opened his eyes. This sudden twist suggested that the secrets of the past could now be revealed. At the same time, news of the fake orders exploded online, sparking a lot of discussion. That night, Eun-sung's father decided to tidy up the room for a new resident. His wife, however, lost control of her emotions and questioned why he didn't dare to mention their dead son's name. The husband remained silent. She said sadly, "We've suffered enough. Let's focus on Eun-sung." She mentioned Eun-sung's scars, mood swings, and increasing pressure. She pointed out that his brother had also resorted to violence to cope with pressure, and she feared Eun-sung was making the same mistake. His father demanded that he hand over the so-called minister, saying he was useless and that no one could see it. Eun-sung questioned his father, asking if he truly knew why his brother loved his earphones so much. The answer to that question was in the earphones. The next day, Eun-sung and Kang Yoon-chi continued their mission, targeting the first class of pedo from Ono High School. Kang Yoon-chi, however, began to notice that Eun-sung's violence was spiraling out of control. He reminded Eun-sung not to hit too hard, as they needed to be different from the bad guys. During the fight, Cherry, who had been knocked down, drew an iron rod, attempting to ambush them. Eun-sung, in an unprecedented rage, pushed Courage away, held Cherry down, and began to wildly punch him. Even when Cherry cried for mercy, Eun-sung couldn't hear him and continued to hit him. Kang Yongqian tried to stop him, but Eun-sung, red-eyed, picked up the iron rod and seemed to be aiming a fatal blow at him. At that critical moment, he stopped. He then threw a bucket of ice water on himself, finally overcoming his anger. Frightened, his friends considered calling the police, but Eun-sung was confident, saying that he was shooting first, and that those kinds of people had always been bullies. A phone call interrupted the argument, saying that Ji-ching, who had been in a coma, had woken up. This twist was so sudden, as if the secrets of the past would now be revealed. The mother choked up, pointing out that she had suffered enough and that her son had also used violence to soothe his pain. His father then demanded he hand over a minister, but Eun-sung questioned if his father really knew why his brother liked the earphones so much. The tension between the family was now completely exposed. Yoon-sung's family was torn apart. The next day, Eun-sung and Kang Yun-chi's mission continued, but Kang Yun-chi noticed Yoon-sung's violence was getting out of control. He warned Eun-sung not to become like the bad guys they were fighting. For the past, as long as Chu Yen enters his previous life in the fight ranking, he can break free from the shackles of the school. But for them, maybe it's a reset. He used to look at the unknown and dangerous campus in front of him and became practical from this moment on to truly own his own flight.